context corner found in each lecture of this course will fill you in on some of the more technical things that you need to know. These are the underpinnings of what we do in the main sections of the lectures. In this lecture, we focused on the basic selection tools, how to extract a piece of one image and place it into a different image. We were essentially learning how to create a new context for our images. Now that might seem enough for some, but really we need to know and we need to talk about some other things that are more technical. One of the fundamental concepts that we need to understand when we're working with Photoshop is the difference between two technical terms, raster and vector. Photoshop is traditionally considered a raster image application. Illustrator, its Adobe sibling, is considered a vector drawing application. What does that mean? Is it important? Well, yes, it's very important. In digital imaging, there are really two worlds that until recently only collided in rare circumstances. Now, these two worlds intermingle frequently. Raster images, that is the kind of images that Photoshop uses as a native format, are based on pixels. Think of pixels as something like little bricks. They're real, they're on the screen, and you can see them. Put a lot of them together, and it's heavy. A raster image is therefore heavy. It has weight. It takes up space. You can add pixels to a raster image, or you can take them away. Vector images, on the other hand, are ethereal. They're fantastical things. A vector is an angle. It's a formula. It's a math equation. Vector images are light. They float. They're just math. They're not bricks. So when you draw in Illustrator, your drawing can be edited and re-edited again and again. Because when you draw a path in a vector-based program, the program is just storing math it takes to build that path. It isn't changing pixels. So remember, Photoshop is raster. When you change something in an image in Photoshop, you're pushing pixels. Because pixels are finite things, an image made up of pixels is also finite. It relies on something that we call resolution. Resolution is often described as pixels per inch, or PPI. If you look at a Photoshop image up close or try to make one larger, you'll see how it gets out of focus, jagged, and pixelated. So we say that raster images are resolution dependent. That means that we're printing or outputting a Photoshop document into a raster-based format, and then we have to be aware of its resolution, or how many pixels per inch it has. Vector images, on the other hand, are resolution independent, and they can be scaled to larger sizes without a loss in resolution, because they're just math. As I said above, when we work in Photoshop, we have to think about what the end result of our image or file is going to be. Will it be for a brochure or a print ad? Will it be for the web? When we have a good idea of what we want to do with the image, we can then make some decisions about what file format we want to shoot for. The general rule of thumb is to keep the file in a larger sized PSD native format no matter what you do. You can then export from the large file to any of the specific ones that I'm about to describe. Now here are the formats for printing from Photoshop. First, there's TIFF, or Tagged Image File Format, and it's the best format for print. It has the advantage of also supporting layers. TIFF is great for CMYK output, which is the color space typically used for print, as well as for grayscale. It also uses lossless compression, meaning it will reduce the weight of your file without reducing the quality. PSD, or Photoshop Document, is the native format for Photoshop, and my advice, as I said above, is to always keep a source document of anything with layers and with adjustments in PSD. TIFFs and other formats won't keep all of those features. From PSD, though, you can output to anything else you need. But going backwards from a flattened image, that might give you some grief. PDF, or Portable Document Format, is what we use for final output from Adobe InDesign. Now, it's not used directly from Photoshop because it relies more on a vector-friendly format called PostScript. But that's a whole other digital can of worms, and just suffice it to say, if you're going to use a PDF, put the PSD in InDesign first, then output the PDF. Are you getting all of this? JPEG, also abbreviated as JPG, is not the best choice for print output. Why? Because it's what's known as lossy. JPEG relies on a compression technique that removes some of the finer points of your data in the interest of saving space. JPEG lossy compression looks at pixel values, and if it finds a lot of, say, blue in a sky, then it's going to adjust some other image, some pixels to match the majority of blue. But you'll actually lose the finer points of other blue pixels. You're essentially removing threads from the fabric of the sky. For a web image that needs to load quickly, that may be fine, but for print, you need as much image data as you can get. So here are the formats for web design and web output from Photoshop. First, there's JPEG or JPG, which is lossy. That means it's a form of compression that actually throws away data from your image file. Even so, it's one of the most popular file formats for output to the web, and there's a reason for that. You see, you don't need as much image information on a monitor as you do when you're working with inks and paper. So this works out quite well. The compression helps the throughput, that is how it goes through the web, so it gets from the server to the browser faster. The advantage to JPEG in relation to the web is that it can support millions of colors, so it depicts photographic images very, very well on a monitor. GIF, which is actually an acronym for Graphic Interchange Format, is often pronounced with a soft G, but I find that that sounds a little bit more like an American peanut butter brand. I prefer to pronounce it with a hard G, as in golf. GIF is a great format for images that started out as vector, then went to raster through some conversion into Photoshop. But you should know that GIFs are rather limited in their color space. They only contain 256 colors, which is called index color. So if you're working with a photographic image or one that has smooth gradients, GIF is definitely not the way to go. If you're working with a logo, though, with a simple color transition, not a gradient, then GIF is possible, and it's also a very good choice. Additionally, GIF supports transparency, and GIFs can be animated. PNG, or Portable Network Graphic, pronounced PNG, combines advantages of both GIF and JPEG. It can hold millions of colors, so photo images look good in the format. It supports transparency, so you can have clean edges around images and see the background of a web page. And it compresses with only a bit of loss. You'll find output to PNG is very popular nowadays with CSS-based web design. You can try the various web formats by going to File, Save for Web, or File, Save for Web and Devices. You'll find out whatever version of Photoshop has a slightly different wording. Save for Web will give you an array of choices. You can also resize the output directly from within that control panel. There are other formats for both print and web, but these are the ones that you'll most likely run into. As your expertise with Photoshop grows, you may find there are some rare occasions to use other formats, but rare is the operative word here. In the next lectures that we're going to have in the course, we'll discuss output options as we work. For now, that should conclude this lecture. So get ready, let's move right on to the first exercise.
Did you like this video? Then subscribe today to stay up to date on our channel or follow us on Google+, Twitter, and Facebook. Visit sessions.edu for more info on classes and admissions. Also, don't forget to check out the links to free downloadable content in the description. Thanks for watching.